Concept cars are the tease that companies use to get us excited about vehicles that rarely, if ever, see the production light of day. But they sure do look awesome, and many times their styling features telegraph those that end up on production cars. In this video, we're going to take a look back at some of the coolest and most legendary muscle and performance car concepts from the 1960s and 1970s that should have been produced, and what they actually gave us instead. Chevrolet developed a handful of mid-engine concept cars during the 60s and 70s that included the Serve 2 and the XP880 Astro 2. But the car that really got the public excited was the mid-engined XP882 AeroVette that debuted at the 1970 New York Auto Show. The car was jaw-droppingly gorgeous and projected some styling features that showed up on upcoming production Corvettes, like the slotted wheels and fastback roof design. It also started the call for the Corvette to become mid-engine, which only took 50 years to materialize in 2020. No, they never produced the XP882 version back in the 70s, but they did give us the fantastic plastic Suddenly the Future Is Now C4 Disco Corvette in 1984 that is one of the least popular Corvette iterations that Chevrolet ever built. Introduced by Mercury in 1967, the Cougar was derived from the Ford Mustang platform and body shell. It's also where Mercury started associating its brand with the feline family. It's fitting then that they named their 1970 Cougar concept car the El Gato, or the Cat. Painted in a lime moon mist color, the front windscreen was raked back several degrees and chopped down by several inches. The production Cougar's notchback roof and rear backlight treatment was replaced by the Mustang's fastback sports roof. The car sat on low-profile rims and Firestone tires. It was very pleasing to the eye, and hinted at the possible direction that the Cougar could be taken by Mercury. No, it wasn't meant to be. The first generation of the Cougar ended after the 1970 model year, and instead we got the bloated 1971 through 73 Cougar that still shared its platform and body shell with the also newly updated, larger, heavier, and less sporting Mustang. This one was a functioning prototype that was based off the first generation Chevy Corvair. Its swoopy curvy shape was the result of wind tunnel testing, with its wraparound canopy hinging forward for passenger access, and the rear section of the car hinged rearward for engine access. It was actually drivable with a 102 horsepower flat 6-cylinder air-cooled engine providing thrust. A topless variant of the car was also built and named the Monza SS for Super Spider for the 1963 show circuit season. GM was serious about putting these into production in the mid-1960s, but canceled the program after Ralph Nader's book Unsafe at Any Speed was published that tarnished the public's view of the Corvair. Instead, we got the styling for the C3 Corvette that was derived from these concept vehicles. Also, if you squint hard enough, you can see the relationship between the rear-end styling treatment of the Monza and the production version of the second-generation Corvair. In 1962, Ford debuted its Mustang I, a fully functioning open-top concept two-seater at Watkins Glen Raceway. It was conceived as a competitor to the Corvette and European sports cars, and was the first time that Ford introduced the name Mustang to the public. It was powered by an 89 horsepower V4 engine and transaxle powertrain provided by Ford of Germany. Its appearance was sleek and racy for 1962 and previews the use of classic Wimbledon white paint color with the blue Le Mans center stripes that showed up later on in the Indy Pace Car Edition and Shelby versions of the Mustang. The public loved the car, but it turned out to be an exercise in buzz-getting, as Ford never intended to produce it. Instead, we got the four-seat 1964.5 Mustang based off the Ford Falcon platform, with engine choices ranging from 6 cylinders to V8s, and spawning multiple generations of iconic Mustangs, some legendary and some not so much, that are still with us today. We'll take that as a win. In the late 1960s, AMC was enjoying some success in the pony car market with its Javelin and AMX models, and was seeking to go even further down the sports car road to compete against the Di Tommaso Pantera to be sold by Lincoln Mercury dealers starting in 1972. What they came up with was AMC designer Dick Teague's beautifully penned mid-engine masterpiece, the AMX3. 6 drivable versions of the prototype were built, powered by AMC's 360 and 390 cubic inch engines for testing and promotional purposes. However, after some realistic cost analysis, AMC discovered that they would have to sell the car for at least $12,000, which would make it uncompetitive against the Pantera. So the plug was pulled and left us with what might have been. What we got instead of the AMX3 was, well, nothing really. AMC abandoned its sports car dreams and debuted the Gremlin, Hornet, and the restyled Matador in the early 70s. As a consolation, I guess, we did get some vague resemblance of styling lines from the AMX3 that showed up on the Matador. So there's that. Ford went all in on Italian-inspired design with the 1970 Mustang Milano. It's a sleek-looking ride and predicts the future styling elements that showed up in the 1971 through 73 Mustang redesign with its long front end, NACA hood ducting, and sharply raked fastback. Interestingly, the car included cast aluminum wheels that mimicked the look of wire wheels and showed up on loads of sports cars in the decades to follow. It also had a unique taillight feature that glowed green when accelerating, amber when coasting, and red when braking. Ford never produced it, but maybe they should have incorporated the idea in a luxury version of the Mustang for the 1971 through 73 models. Instead of the Milano, we got the fat and lazy 71 through 73 Mustangs with an extra 800 pounds of weight, detuned engines, and poor driver visibility. In 1964, Pontiac's John DeLorean debuted the sensuously styled XP833 concept car, whose mission was to compete with Ford's newly released Mustang. It was stunningly magnificent and could have posed a real threat to the Mustang. GM suits weren't having it though, and saw it as a potential threat to Corvette sales, as it was lighter and quicker than the Corvette. A big no-no in GM world, where the Corvette was, is, and always shall be the corporate performance king. DeLorean was ordered to stand down, and the XP833 Banshee program was ash-canned. Instead of a Pontiac production Banshee, we got 2 different production cars and a design feature included on a third car from the Banshee concept. First, there was the taillights from the Banshee concept that ended up on the Firebird. Also, you don't even have to squint hard to see the strong resemblance between the Banshee and the 1968 C3 Corvette. And lastly, the 1968 Opel GT looks very much like the Banshee concept. Plymouth went all Hot Wheels on us in 1970 and showed us not 1, but 3 different concept models that were based off the current production Cuda, Duster, and Roadrunner. These were part of the Rapid Transit marketing campaign, where the cars were part of a traveling caravan that traversed across the country to Plymouth dealerships. The Rapid Transit caravan lasted for 2 years and required that the Roadrunner be updated with the new for 1971 body style. These were wild takes on the Plymouths and cool to look at as promotional displays, but were never offered as versions of the actual cars you could buy. Instead, we got an updated and rounded off Roadrunner in 1971 that still had some performance chops, with the Hemi still available in its last year. The production Duster and Cuda didn't include any styling features from the Rapid Transit versions, which is just as well, we think. This is the 1970 Ford King Cobra. Based on the new for 1970 Torino update, this car was created as a homologation prototype for NASCAR racing to go up against the Dodge Daytona and Plymouth Superbird twins. Ford made 3 of these, and also a Mercury Cyclone Spoiler 2 version powered by its Boss 429 engine, and also 429 Cobra Jet and Super Cobra Jet engines. During testing at high speeds, Its handling was described as both terrifying and dangerous because of excessive front downforce and non-existent rear downforce due to a lack of rear spoiler or wing. Because of that, and impending NASCAR rules that outlawed Aero cars, Ford canceled the program, and none were ever raced or sold to the public. Instead, we got a succession of boring Torinos that raced in NASCAR until 1976, when the Torino name was dropped by Ford. At least there was the Starsky and Hutch Torino, of which Ford built 1,000 replicas that were sold to the public, only with Magnum 500 wheels instead of the TV car's slotted mag wheels. This one represents an odd path from idea to concept car and involves the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 with the all-aluminum 427 cubic inch engine, which was never officially offered as a regular production option in the 1960s and the 1970s. Chevrolet thought that a ZL1 Camaro might be a hit with the public to offer as an RPO model and developed a ZL1 prototype car. And here it is. Well, not the real one. This is a faithful reproduction of a 4-speed done up in black with gold striping and accents, as the original's whereabouts are unknown. Chevy killed the idea due to needing to be sold to the public for $8,600 per copy, an outrageous amount back then. We definitely never got a ZL1 Camaro in the late 1960s and early 1970s, but Chevy did get around to resurrecting it in 2012 by giving its 6th generation Camaro a 6.2-liter supercharged all-aluminum 550 horsepower beast that could propel the Camaro from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. And it only took 43 years for Chevy to get around to giving it to us. And that's it! We hope you enjoyed this look at some of the cool concept cars that Detroit sprung on us way back then, even though none of them were actually produced as they were shown. But some of them revealed the direction that the car makers were headed in terms of styling and features. As always, thanks for watching, and please remember to like and share this video and subscribe to our channel.